Hey, ladies and gents, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 to What If Deku Had a Dominatrix Quirk. That's because within the first few hours, the last video hit the like goal of 200, and we're going to keep the like goal the same on this part. So for a part 3 to come out, you guys just have to get this video to 200 likes, and that being said, let's get started. So in the last part, Deku and Bakugo, which Bakugo is a female in this, they started developing feelings towards each other while they were training for the UA entrance exams, and, things like that. So, the usual, but Bakugo's a girl, but she doesn't know that she's a girl because of Deku, and everything like that. While they were training, Deku figured out that he can, manipulate the feelings of people of the opposite gender. So, obviously he doesn't know that he can change people's genders yet, but, he figures that out. So, while he was training with his quirk, he understood that he could do those types of things. So when the UA entrance exams actually started, written exams, obviously Deku did a lot better in or not really obviously, but he's smarter, so he did a lot better in that. And then the actual practical exams start with all the robots. Deku amassed absolutely massive amounts of points using his rods, and that's what I decided I was going to call them at pretty much the end of the last part. So he was getting a ton of points with that. So with that, let's get into the new material. So we're going to start this off with basically Deku had massive amount of points, and he was literally just about to leave because he had more points than even somebody like All Might. He didn't know he was at the complete top right now because it had literally been 5 minutes since he actually started the exams themselves. So he wasn't too, worried about it though, because he could tell that other people are not even going to be able to break nearly as many robots as him. So he was about to literally leave because he had amassed hundreds of points and he didn't know that they were a thing, but also probably about 75 to 100 rescue points. So he's about to leave because he's I don't really care anymore. And this is where the giant zero-pointer robot comes out. So Deku hears a bunch of screaming behind him, and he turns around to see a bunch of people running towards him. He's whatever. He thinks about challenging it, but then he decides there'd really be no point to it. So he's whatever, and he slowly begins to turn away and begins to walk the opposite direction, away from the massive robot. But then he hears a scream, and he turns around once again, and I'm just going to say he has enhanced eyesight because, I can. And so he sees that Ochako, because that's what I'm going to call her in this, because I don't really feel like trying to say her name again, because I don't want to. So she's there, and Deku's fine, whatever, I'll go kill it, or get as close to killing a robot as he can really get. So he decides that he's going to break it. So he jumps up, and he's about to break the massive robot. And then he saves Ochako. Ochako didn't even see Deku move. And she's just we have to get out of here really quick because the robot's it's gonna kill us. And Deku's oh, you mean that thing? And Ochako looks up because she didn't really see it until now. And she notices that there's not really a massive hole, but there's this massive dent in the robot that's literally the size of what Deku did in the original to it, except it wasn't quite as showy, and he was much, much faster than he was in the original. So Ochako didn't even see it. All she did was see Deku appear in front of her and, lifting off the rubble. So Deku's oh, I already took care of it. And she's I see that. So Deku helps her up, and he's just can you walk? And she's she's hesitating to respond right now. And Deku looks down, and he sees that her leg is injured, and he's yeah, whatever, I don't care. This is nothing new. And he just picks her up bridal style. And she's what? And she just begins, blushing. And he's whatever. This isn't anything for me anymore. As he begins, walking out of the area. So, while this was happening, Bakugo finished her side of the exams, and she was waiting at the gate for Deku. But she noticed that he wasn't showing up, and she's whatever, I'm gonna go find him really quick. So she walks into the area of the exams where she figured out where Deku was, and she sees Deku carrying this pretty cute girl who's she's pretty cute, and he's what? And she gets immediately jealous. They both know that they have feelings for one another, but they never actually went to admit it. So Deku can pretty obviously tell that she's kind of fucking pissed right now. And by the way, if you hear rain or thunder in the background right now, that's because, it's freaking thundering outside of my house right now. It's like a thunderstorm, and I can't really do anything to edit that out with like audio things. So sorry about that. Like, yeah, but so yeah, and I don't really want to record. I literally can't record tomorrow because I'm gonna be gone at work all day. So yeah, with that, that little disclaimer out of the way. Sorry if you hear like rain or thunder or whatever in the background. So Bakugo would basically run up, and you can obviously tell that she's getting kind of jealous, and she's kind of a little bit mad. Deku can tell based on her voice and pretty much everything about her expressions and everything like that. And she's just like, "Who's this?" So, like, you can tell the pure rage that's in her voice. Deku's like, "Oh boy," and he puts Ochako down, and he's like, "Oh, just somebody I had to save out there." And Ochako's like, she's blushing a little bit because she can obviously tell that this kid, or not really kid, but that Deku is kind of like not really a player, but people notice him. So Deku's like, whatever, it wasn't much. I just had to save her real quick. And Bakugo, she's a little bit less angry because Deku put her down. And she's like, whatever, before kind of just walking away. Because she doesn't want to see, or she doesn't want Deku to see that she's jealous and mad by the fact that, Deku had her, like, carry bridal style. She's like, he never held me like that. And, she's obviously a little bit jealous at this point. Deku just kind of smiles as he's walking away. And he goes back to his house, and he tells his mother about how he's like, yeah, I got in. And she's like, how are you so confident about that? And Deku's like, oh, trust me, I got in. So a few weeks later, the actual like news got there, and it's All Might on the little hologram thing that was in the original, and he's like, congratulations, young Izuku Midoriya. That whole thing, because Izuku literally got top place, like more than anybody in history had literally ever gotten. So he got like an absolute massive amount of points. So he's like, whatever, I was kind of expecting that. And he then kind of is like, okay, time to go to school. And he gets ready. I'm pretty sure it was like the next day that they went to school, so it was like not really much of a notice there. So he gets ready, and he's going to school. And he gets there, and he's not really as intimidated by the absolutely massive door of Class 1A, because, come on. It really, like, he's so much, like, cooler, I guess you could say, in this What If than he was in, like, in the original, in the canon. Just because, he was kind of a freaking puss in the actual, like, show itself. But we're not getting into that. We're not getting into the problems with his character in this. Like, that's not the point of this. So he's like, okay. And he walks into the door, and he sees some familiar faces. That being Ida, and he sees Bakugo, who's already there. She doesn't have her feet up on the table or on the desk like she does, and she's kind of just casually sitting there. She sees Deku walks in, and she gets up to go talk to him because, like, they know each other, and they kind of like, whatever, I got to talk to the person you know. Kind of like how, like, say you know somebody in middle school, you are still friends with them when you go to high school. It's kind of like the same thing as that. So, with that, they start talking to each other, and this is where Ochako walks up behind Deku, and she's like, oh, it's you, the kid that saved me. And Deku turns around and he sees her. And he's like, oh, hi. And then he just senses something behind him. He senses rage. And he turns around and he can see the anger that's in Bakugo's eyes. And he's like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to go sit down. And he goes and he sits down. Basically like, whatever, I don't really care. So he goes and, he sits down. And this is where the homeroom teacher pops up and he erases her head. And he's just like, I'm your homeroom teacher, so Shoto Aizawa. And, things like that. And he's like, it took you guys like 5 seconds to shut the hell up. That won't do. Now come outside. We're doing a quirk assessment test. And everybody's like kind of complaining about this because they're like, what? Aren't we supposed to go to the, whatever you call it? Like the... Seriously, I can't remember the names of things right now. The little, like, entrance thing into, like, what most schools have when you first go to, like, their first day. That little thing. And Aizawa is about to, like, talk again, but then he sees something. Deku is literally already by the door, getting up with it, pulling the gym clothes out of his bag. And he's just like, why don't you all just shut up and follow that kid? And everybody's like, oh, okay, whatever, I don't care anymore. But people are still, like, thinking, they're like, why do we have to do this? Like, wasn't that the point of the entrance exams or the practical exams? So everybody gets on their gym clothes, and people in the male area are looking at Deku's completely ripped body. Because, come on. he has to be freaking, he has to be fine. Like, otherwise, it just wouldn't work with him having that quirk. So, he is, like, absolutely ripped. So, he's, like, everybody's, like, looking at him, like, staring, and he's just like, what the hell do you guys want? What are you looking at? And, Kirishima is just like, bro, what kind of training do you do? And Deku looks, and he's just like, oh, not much. And Kirishima's like, fuck. Like, what the hell is that shit? What, why can't I have that? And Deku's like, whatever, don't worry about it, chief. So, everybody ends up, like, getting up and leaving for the actual, like, outsides. And Deku, as soon as he steps out into the field, where some of the girls are, everybody's looking at him. Because he's in tight-ass gym clothes right now. And everybody's like, shit, bro. Bakugo's kind of smiling because she's seen this before. Like, this is what Deku would usually train in. Like, when they were doing their training for the UA entrance exams. And she's like, never gets old. And everybody else is just like, damn, that boy is fine. Damn. Like, you know, like, you know exactly how... I don't actually know what girls think, but I don't care. I don't care anymore. So, Deku would basically walk out, and Aizawa, or Eraserhead, would basically give him a ball. He's just like, you got first place in the exams. And he throws him the ball, and he's just like, what was your basically highest throw back in, or your longest throw back in middle school? And Deku looks at him, and he like thinks for a second. He's just like, 300 meters. And he's just like, wait, without a quirk? And Deku's like, yeah, what about it? And he's like, Aizawa's like, whatever, I don't care. So then all of a sudden, he's like, okay, so you gotta use your quirk for this, and basically just throw it as far as you can. And Deku's like, okay, whatever. So, because of the fact that he's like, you know, dominatrix, shit like that, he's gonna be absurdly overpowered in this. So, the second he activates his quirk, all of his muscles bulk up a little bit. And the ball in his hand immediately just, like, it feels basically like nothing to Deku. So, all of his muscles, like, bulk up, and, like, the shirt that he's wearing actually, like, completely rips, because, you know, why the hell not? And all the girls have blood coming out of the nose at this point from seeing this. And as I was just like, oh my god, freaking show off. So, Deku basically rears back his arm, and a little pink substance would go around the ball. It's like it's kind of like the, you know, what did I even call them? The rods. Except he shaped it in a way to kind of like how your, like, dog thrower would be. And he shapes it like that. Except, you know, kind of like strong, but at the same time, rubbery. So he whips it in the direction that he's trying to go, and the ball just completely flies. As I was looking at the little, like, what did he even have to measure the distance? I don't remember exactly what he had. But he's looking at it, and he just watches as the ball flies. 1,000. 1,500. 2,000. And he's watching this happen. He's just like, how far is it going to go? And then finally, the ball stops at 3,000 meters. And everybody's like, the hell was that? How did he throw that so far? And then he retracts his little, like, liquidy stuff. You know, he can, like, make it, like, liquid and solid and stuff like that. And it goes back into him. And everybody's like, what the hell was that? Because they noticed the color, but Deku didn't have it in the shape that would make it obvious to a girl exactly what it was. So they're like, what even is his quirk? Is it like a muscle enhancement, like, creation quirk? Or what exactly, what is it? Or an enhancement quirk and a creation quirk? Like, they're trying to figure out what this shit is, which it basically is a enhancement and creation quirk, but that don't matter. So they're like, okay, cool. He got it really fucking far. So all the exams would basically, you know, Deku would place top in literally all of them, except for the ball throw, because Ochako got, you know, infinite. So he places literally highest in literally everything. And all the girls, this just proves to make them like him even more. You know, pretty obviously. So then, this is where they all go back to, like, their little classes for the day. And I don't know exactly how long after it was that this happens, but this is where All Might has his class. And it's the heroes versus villains. So, people like Todoroki would... basically just Todoroki, would have, like, a little grudge against Deku for, you know, being stronger than him. Just kind of like, it's not really like the friendly rivalry. It's kind of like the whole, like, why are you stronger than me kind of a thing. Like, it's not like what it was in the original. That's just because Deku wasn't that OP. But in this one, he's just fucking godly. So, Shoto kind of has that resentment towards him. That might not happen in the future. Just a little hint. So don't question it just yet. But you guys might know exactly where I'm taking this, considering. But whatever, that don't matter right now. So that would happen, and the teams I'm going to change up a little bit. So Deku would still be have a teammate with Ochako, except his opponents would be a little bit different. It would be 2 people. Bakugo, which was the same, but frickin' Ida, he is replaced by Todoroki, just because, why not? You gotta have that, like, clashing personalities in there and clashing powers. So why the hell not? So, as they're basically, like, starting, heroes are still going to be Izuku and Ochako, while the villains are going to be Bakugo and Todoroki. So that doesn't really change all too much. It's just one person that really changes this. So immediately Todoroki would be like, I'm going to show you I'm stronger than you. And he freezes like the entire top half of the building. Deku's like, what the hell is this? And he basically makes a liquidy substance of this like rubbery pink shit around his feet and Ochako's feet, which would basically allow him to not get frozen to the fucking floor. And he just kind of like casually walks over it and casually starts walking forward. This time, Bakugo wouldn't be as, like, rambunctious, I guess you could say, or, like, trying to challenge Deku to a fight, because she knows that he's really freaking overpowered. Todoroki, on the other hand, would be a completely different story, so the roles would kind of switch. Bakugo would stay back, while Todoroki would go and he'd be like, I'm gonna kill him. That whole thing. So, they meet face to face after a while, and Todoroki notices that it's only Deku standing there. This is obviously because Ochako would be, going ahead trying to get to the thing, because Deku basically foresaw that this is exactly what was going to happen, and Bakugo would stay back. So he begins fighting with Todoroki. Obviously, his ice would do absolutely nothing to Deku. He could just smash through it, except with absolutely no side effects to his, arms or legs or anything like that. And he's just casually walking forward. Kind of like that typical anime scene where the person is like shooting a Kamehameha or some shit at them and they're just walking through it. That's exactly what Deku is doing. And he's just casually walking forward, and eventually he gets up to the place where Todoroki is. A pink substance forms around the hand of Deku as he slams it forward. This is probably only like a smidgen of his strength, not even anywhere near what he used to throw the ball. And he just slams his fist, covered in this weird pink shit, and it goes straight into Todoroki's chest, sending him completely flying backwards. But as this happened, Deku lost control for a brief moment, and Todoroki's being began to switch. Todoroki kind of went under the same thing, or that Bakugo did way back in the day, back when he switched to she. And he's just like, wait, what? As Todoroki's body begins just slowly transforming into that of a female. You knew that this was going to happen when I first announced, the fact that that wasn't going to last long, and immediately Deku realizes exactly what happened back in the day. He lost control of his quirk way back when he first awakened it. But he's had control of it ever since then. He realizes that one of his powers is the ability to switch genders, but he doesn't quite know how to access that ability at will yet. So he's like, really? Interesting. And he walks up now, and he's just like, I know I can use this to my advantage. Because, opposite gender, like, changing moods and different shit like that. As he just casually walks up, because Todoroki would be in absolute shock right now. And he walks up, and he's just like, so, Todoroki, touching her shoulder. Todoroki's eyes instantly change. His demeanor, or her demeanor, instantly changes as well. Into that of somebody trying to grovel at your feet because they want the pee-pee. Yeah, that's exactly what Deku did. Remembering back to his training with the female Bakugo, he realized what a really easy way that he could win this battle. basically making it so that that Todoroki wants his D. So he is like, whatever, I can just leave you be, you're not going to fight me anymore, before going up to where Bakugo would be. So he gets up there, and he's just casually walks out, and he's just like, sup, Bakugo? And Bakugo's like, are you really, do you really think I'm going to even try to fight you? I trained with you for like a long time. Just take it. I don't care anymore. And, Deku's like, okay, sure, why not? And he walks up and he touches the bomb, winning the exams for the heroes. The MVP of this, I believe, would be Deku this time, because he didn't like cause that massive collateral damage that he did in the original when he was fighting with Bakugo. So that doesn't happen, so I'm pretty sure that he would be titled as the MVP of it. So with that, this video got to 20 minutes and I'm leaving in here. Remember, 200 likes for the next part. Peace out. See you guys later. Bye.